history maybe? Is it interesting?
Yeah.
You should go back to...
Yeah, just briefly.
Back in time.
Yeah, when did you first meet this guy?
So, when was ACL Tokyo? So 2003 in Tokyo, there was the ACL Composers League conference in competition, and Jack Boddy was friends with Nana Yoshimura, who's the culture player of this ensemble. So I met her then, and it must have been about 2011. I got her contact details, and I just wrote to her and said I was interested in writing for Koto, and Jake was quite supportive. So I actually went there and learnt a bit about it, and then it was sort of grew exponentially. She was interested in coming, so I started the ball rolling with that, and then she suggested that she come with Toshio Suzuki, who's this amazing recorder player. And they'd had a number of years of working together, and quite a few pieces written by Japanese composers for them. So I arranged for them to come here in 2012, and we did 2 concerts in Wellington and 1 in Auckland. I knew that the 2 of them played with Mayumi Miyata, who's a shore player. So they'd also had quite a few pieces written for the trio. I remember feeling really excited because they're all amazing soloists, and hearing the recordings together, they're really great chamber players as well. I think it started with me writing to the festival maybe. Chamber Music New Zealand, seeing if they were interested, and then we met with Ewan, and I think it was like that day, or the day before, the co-commissioning fund, Asia,
Closed?
No,
opened.
it opened.
Right.
There was a press release.
Okay.
So yes, it was perfect. Really, everything came into alignment, and yeah, and Nana really loves coming to New Zealand, and Tosi had been here before. This is Mayumi's first time. They were pretty keen. So we have been in Tokyo for a consultation period beginning of 2015. Mm-hmm. Then we wrote the pieces during 2015, and then we went back in February, this month, for the concert and rehearsals. Our 3 pieces, and
some of the repertoire in each concert.
Yeah. So
it was more recorder focused, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was more. It was called the recorder recital, and so far we've all been in New Zealand together for a week. No, less than that. Mm-hmm. Concert in Auckland Hotel Alpha. It's presenting works, 2 works by Samuel, 2 works of mine, new work of Chris's, and a traditional showpiece, and 2 newish Japanese pieces. I was thinking about this morning. One of the best things I probably did at high school was Japanese, probably more than music actually. I got more out of that. Just quietly. So I kept up my language skills on this side really through university, and that having a semblance of being able to communicate meant I had a way in to Japan, and it makes things a bit easier. Means I can read a lot, and I'm excited to go back, not only for the music but the cultural side and the language.
Samuel and Chris, was it your first trip to Japan earlier this year?
No, so I've been a few times before. I went after I'd been to the ACL in Korea and spent some time in Tokyo. That was in 2009, I think. And also prior to that, I'd been to Japan to go to a Madonna concert in Osaka. But like Dylan and I think Chris as well, I have a great fondness for Japanese culture, and I have almost 0 Japanese, but it's actually surprising how easy it is as a visitor. It's useful having Dylan to translate menus, but
Tokyo especially is
it's very accommodating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, the project's been fun for lots of reasons, but going to Tokyo has been a good part of that.
Yeah, especially twice. It was my first time in 2015, the research trip. It was really enjoyable, and what an amazing city Tokyo is. That's 28 million. Yeah, and so functional and easy,
and doesn't seem busy.
No, and everyone's friendly. Amazing. But I think another thing about kind of Japanese culture, I like things Japanese, both ancient and modern. I think the Kogaku music is really exceptional. But what's fantastic about these 3 performers is that it really exists outside of traditions or kind of outside of any boxes or definitions. What they do is really exceptional and really like nothing else I've heard or seen from anyone.
I think Nanai Yoshimura was one of probably the first cultural player to really develop the instrument as a instrument in contemporary music. I think her teacher and her developed the instrument with extra strings. So the traditional instrument only has 13 strings, so it has an extended lower range and a few on the top maybe. And the same with Mayumi, I imagine. She's actually worked with John Cage. He wrote a number of pieces for her, and Björk as well. Yeah. And Toshio Hosokawa, Helmut Lackermann, she's she plays all of these pieces, and Tosia as well.
Yeah, Tosia not only having pieces written for him, but also transcriptions of flute pieces, which are exceptional for a number of reasons. The technical facility, but also the way the scores look is really beautiful. He has amazing calligraphy.
He copies the handwriting of each composer, like Shirino or Funiho.
But I mean, they're on the edge, obviously. But would you describe them as early on as traditional musicians? I mean, is there a traditional system or?
No, I wouldn't describe them as.
No, they're not like Chinese musicians who have come out of an opera scene. Or...
No,
although Mayumi, I mean, I think she played in opera for a long time.
In Gagaku. Yeah, I think Japan is a little different from my experience in China. Maybe the training early on is probably in both, and there's opportunities to have concurrent careers in the early sort of court music and also contemporary music too.
So the piece I wrote for the trio is called Mono, which in Japanese means thing, and obviously in English it works as a prefix to indicate one of something. I guess I've been recently writing lots of pieces that use very simple, kind of mundane materials in a very restricted or constrained manner. In this piece, the constraints were driven mostly by the limitations of the sho, which was the instrument I found myself especially fascinated with after we first went to Tokyo together. And so it's quite limited in terms of pitch and range, and the piece really works through those pitches and that range from its lowest note to its highest note over the course of the 8 minutes. So I've written a number of pieces that really just move through ascending or descending scales. I don't really know why. It seems like a very kind of fundamental musical element. I feel like I need the restrictions that I place on these pieces at the moment for the music to actually be made. And I guess I'm pleased that I feel like I could still work with that same material and treatment of material and get these pieces which really are significantly different.
And in Lower Hut we're also performing a second piece of Samuel's, which he had written for the first visit of Nana and Tosia in 2012, with an added short part.
So
It changes the quite a lot, I think.
for the better, maybe? Or it's different?
Yeah, it's different.
So this is a piece called Austerity Measures, which I originally wrote for Dylan, Tosia and Nanai for when they came to New Zealand in 2012. And I mean, again, it deals with relatively simple descending materials.
It actually almost seems like it was made to have the short part in it because of the show has limitations of pitch, obviously, but what it does have is a lot of A's and E's. So
and the austerity measures descends between an A and an A, just over the course of an octave.
Yeah.
I guess the other reason it seems quite good that the show is there is that the piece features A440 tone on a metronome during the piece, and the sound of the show is uncannily similar to the sound of the A440 buzz on the metronome sometimes. And so that pairing seems quite nice.
Yeah, I sit I sit next to the two of them, and sometimes I can't quite tell.
But there's a tuning difference as well, isn't there?
That's right. I think it's the show is 442, the contemporary show, and the metronome is 440. So
it's a colour difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
piece is called Choruses, and that's a reference to the dawn chorus of birds and birdsong, simply because I began with a recording that I made of a tui call. I transcribed it using both my ear and technology to have a look at the spectral and harmonic content, the colour of each tui note, which is quite interesting. The colour of certain parts of the tui call is quite chaotic and quite gnarly, and I like that. And then I set about writing something that places it in a kind of cloudy, alien disposition for the material, for the harmonic and rhythmic material, and explored some of these harmonies and the kind of violence or aggression that happens when you hear a tui song in extreme close up.
You've used transcription quite a bit recently, would that be right? What's
Yes.
drawn you to that?
I've been just interested in environmental or sort of quotidian, sort of everyday sound, and how that might play on your musical or compositional DNA, and I like the idea of exploring the subtleties of tuning and colour, that now technology affords us the ability to be able to transcribe and to actually describe and pitch and harmony and colour. So it's been sort of convenient, but I find it really fruitful, and I think that there's a lot that can happen with it. My music doesn't sound like Grisé or Murai. It's very different, but it's the same avenue, just to something quite different.
So with the tuning system in your piece, how far have you divided it down?
It isn't divided that far, simply because maybe I have limitations as well
of instruments.
And for what I can hear, so I tend to divide it just into quarter tones or the microtones that occur through the harmonic series. Those are the sorts of things that I'm kind of limited to in terms of my...
Or through playing techniques as well.
And playing techniques, yeah.
Mm. So if we were to divide environmental sounds into an octave, how many divisions? Or an infinite amount of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does slide around. The last time that Nanae and Tosia were here, I wrote a piece called Three Details that involved Tosia, not Nanae. But this was something actually for Dylan, who had been commissioning a lot of works for guitar and a kind of flexible ensemble. So it's scored for guitar and 4 to 6 sustaining instruments. They could be anything. In this case, it was nice to use Tosia because he's a wonderful player. And electronics as well. There's a fixed electronics part as well. So in this piece, it's going back a little bit. I think I did transcribe a little of Dylan playing actually. So there's guitar sounds embedded in the writing and in the electronics part. But a lot of it is to do with a kind of synthesized movement of sound, so using the subtlety of tuning to make it sound like things that are basically the same as shifting just a little bit by retuning them in close proximity, and using also colour and dynamics to imply distance or relative closeness.
Proximity. So you recorded a fair amount of harmonics, I remember.
Yeah.
piece for this concert and these concerts is called Retracing. I have written it for Sho, koto, bass recorder and tenor recorder with the same player, and also guitar. So for a while now I've been interested in recursive idea of revisiting material but in slightly altered way. So with this piece I start with material which is quite close, there's a number of semitones and it's repeated but altering each time, and it slowly unravels and more vertical information is added to it, and it's also expanded horizontally. And I was dealing with this recursive idea of revisiting things and remembering, and the unreliability of memory, retracing one's memory of something. It's never the same as the actual event that occurred. And also with a lot of my music recently, I'm fascinated with sonic interiors and inviting listeners to contemplate the content of sound. And that is also a reason for using repetition, so you are able to contemplate something more that way.
There's some quite delicate kind of sounds and textures, especially from the recorder. How did you devise them, or what was
Yeah,
the
well,
process?
I think each of us had different issues with different instruments. I found the limitations of the show gave me some flexibility in a way, especially harmonically.
What do you mean?
The combinations, because how many pipes are there?
17 in the
17.
contemporary one.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, and you don't have 17 fingers, so one finger, actually I think it's the thumb on the left hand, is in charge of 5 of the different pipes, so you can't actually play any of those 5 notes together. So, actually I've discovered that all of our pieces have certain chords that are the same because of that. Which probably means she sight reads quite quickly.
I think so.
Where were we? The limitations. So the kinds of chords that I were able to arrange for the show are all focused around an A and a B flat, because it's I think 2 sides of the instrument. So you're not needing to contemplate this change of fingering so much. And the nice thing about the show is it has quite a wide dynamic range, whereas the recorder doesn't. So I actually got a bass and tenor recorder and experimented with making more subtle sounds. And Torsia had, I guess he developed this technique of using the first finger hole on the instrument as a substitute flute embouchure, flute mouthpiece. So it changes the quality of the instrument a lot. It means that it can't play as loud as the conventional recorder technique, but it means he's able to apply al niente, crescendi, and diminuendo.
So he goes like this?
Yep. So he's actually, for most of the piece, he's playing it traverso.
So the notes he's fingering would
Yeah,
to be different from
they're
what you'd normally
they're
produce.
completely different actually.
Yeah.
So I investigated some fingering on the recorder I had, and fortunately the notes also centered around an A and a B flat, the same as the Shaw. Nice coincidence, well, especially with tenor. It's quite interesting how different it is from the normal mode of playing, where each sound hole is a tone. So it's actually quite different.
It actually sounds different every time he plays, almost as well.
Yeah, I think he's. I came up with a few sounds which he didn't know about. So he's discovering these each time we play. It seems.
The nice thing about the show is that the player is inhaling and exhaling continuously, and so you have this continuity of sound.
Continuous.
Which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, it's a continuous blanket of sound, but slowly changing the harmony. But often there's a background set of notes through the whole thing. I actually found with the show that the colour is so much in the foreground for me, more than the pitch actually.
Yeah, it was actually the writing for that ensemble was challenging in a way. It was quite difficult to work out how to make those three instruments work together.
I found when we started rehearsing, it sounded like three separate instruments which didn't have much in common. But actually yesterday I thought, like the recordings that we'd heard, like Phoenix Chicken,
Which is by
Kawakami. It sounds quite homogeneous, but that's to do with the rhythm as well.
I mean, I
But
took the easy
colour-
option, and my piece basically moves in rhythmic and pitch unison. It's essentially monophonic, so that was my
Yeah,
solution.
was that taking a cue from Gagaku, maybe?
Sure.
For sure.
I was surprised at how, when I first went to Japan and met with Nana and the koto, I guess I had this vision of it as quite a gentle instrument, but actually it's probably the king of this little ensemble that we have.
Yeah, it definitely has
Amazing.
the widest dynamic range. And I think the technique that Nana has developed, the attack that she can get from it is really great. So I'm playing in my piece, I feel quite poor next to her actually.
Well, also in austerity measures, it seems like you have to make quite an effort to kind of match the koto,
Yeah.
or get close to it.
But also her sound it's not just the attack. There's a lot of depth to it too. And listening to recordings of koto, like probably early recordings, it does sound quite thin at times, doesn't it?
Sure.
But yeah, that hasn't been our experience with Nano.
Does the instrument have a resonating body, or is it hollow inside?
So and then there are two sound holes underneath the instrument.
We all had, there's some time taken in the concert for retuning because every piece has a different
So the
tuning.
the bridges are completely movable. So each string potentially has about a minor third that you could change it.
I think there are some strings which should be fixed, but I think we've all disregarded that by at least a quarter tone.
I didn't.
Oh, you left them?
Well, she likes to have the G because like harp, there's the coloured string which you orientate yourself. So she likes.
I think I left the G's, but the C's became C sharps.
Yeah. So it helps if there's a string which is a certain pitch. Because she doesn't read scores as a transposing score, so she learns every string afresh, I guess, with every piece. So like with mine, I might have an F and yours is an E, yours is an E flat. So she'll be reading it at those pitches. So it takes a while to learn. Similar challenges with scordatura and string instruments.
What's nice about the tuning is that there's kind of a choreography as well. The way she plays, getting around the instrument is quite visual as well. It looks very elegant, and actually for her often quite explosive or sort of demonstrative. It's really, really nice. And I like, and I think you've used that in your solo piece as well, the reverse side of the tuning pegs. It's sort of, there's an unexpected quality and pitch to the side of it, and it's quite nice choreographically as well.
A number of coincidental unisons actually on the left side of the bridge. So with my solo piece, I actually mapped out imagining each string was the equivalent thickness, which they're not, but imagining the measured distances of each side, trying to get close unisons, so high and low, low and high, and then everything in between.
It's very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Tosia has brought with him 5 different recorders. Sopranino, no, not Sopranino.
Yeah,
Sopranino. Alto in Samuel's piece, tenor in Chris's and mine. I also use bass recorder.
And he plays great bass.
Yeah, he plays the great bass recorder, which it's a massive instrument. Its lowest note is only viola C. But it
has a different kind of depth to it.
There's a lot of breathy sounds you can get from it. He plays it in 2 pieces. So.
It's the tradition for recorder is sort of Renaissance and Baroque music, but it's quite nice hearing what happens when there's a player who's committed to contemporary music, especially things with a large amount of extended technique. I find it quite interesting. I find that there's a lot more breath that just happens, a lot more sort of white noise that just comes out because of the dynamic and the kind of gesture of how he plays. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think he is trying to get, or almost emulate the others, trying to get as much dynamic range as possible, and it's not a struggle, but
a little bit.
He adds various techniques to achieve that. Like in the lower dynamics, he'll, I guess, sort of open one side of his mouth, so it adds a lot more air, and that's become part of his playing. But yeah, so thinking about the recorder, has this early tradition, and then there's this gap, and then the contemporary music. It's reasonably common for recorder players. Maybe that's why it was a really nice match with the koto on the show. I'm not completely sure of the history of Japan, but there's the strong early tradition, gagaku music, and also koto was used in geisha performances. And maybe when it was slowly opening up to the West, that new things might not have been developing so much. So, like recorder might be a bit of a gap when we had our romantic period. I don't know if that's completely true, but I sort of imagining that's the case.
There definitely would have been a sort of
Like during the Meiji period, like when things were close to the West, and
It's good for us, I think, in our pieces.
yeah, so they have a strong interest in new things, and then there's the ancient music that they play as well.
which sometimes sounds very new.
Pretty new.
Yeah, to our ears.